Today on Locked On Rockies, well, we knew to be excited about Ezequiel Tovar, but how excited should we be going into 2024? The short answer, really excited.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 10th day of November in the year 2023. Whoa, I almost did a time jump. Well, it's because we're looking ahead into our crystal ball into 2024 to do some projections about Ezequiel Tovar and review Ezequiel Tovar's rookie season for the Colorado Rockies, because we talk Colorado Rockies baseball each and every day here on the Locked On Rockies podcast, where you can find your daily Colorado Rockies talk on your favorite streaming service or on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. All you got to do, head on over there to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. Let me know what you think about Ezequiel Tovar and the Colorado Rockies in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. Your subscription to the show is the easiest way to help the show grow. I really, really do appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. Today on Locked On Rockies, we're reviewing Ezequiel Tovar, the rookie phenom, the exciting rookie, the maybe not most exciting young Rockies player anymore following Nolan Jones. We'll talk about Ezequiel Tovar's 2023 and look ahead to 2024, man. Talk about all that coming up here on today's episode of the Locked On Rockies podcast. Before we dive into everything today, today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. All right. So for those that don't know me or know who I am Paul Holden. I am your Rockies fan extraordinaire. I've been following this team my entire life, and I've been bringing you your daily Rockies talk for over 3 seasons now here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And today I want to talk about one of the most exciting Rockies, and probably would be the most exciting Rockies player if the Rockies didn't make the trade for Nolan Jones. But these two are the reason to be the most excited about the Rockies. When you are looking for things to tune into and be excited about for the Colorado Rockies in 2024, if you are looking for Rockies players that are going to be easy to root for, Rockies players that will be key to building up for in the future, it will be headlined by Nolan Jones and Ezequiel Tovar. Ezequiel Tovar was one of the few bright spots in an otherwise really tough year. And throughout this whole entire season, the one thing that we got to see a lot of from Ezequiel Tovar was the fact that this young guy is ready for the majors. This guy can handle the majors. This guy was there. Not a single person didn't mention his maturity or talk about it or highlight the fact that this guy was handling the pressures, the stress, everything of the major leagues as a professional, and of doing so at a young age, and doing so also in the midst of becoming a new father and trying to establish himself as a rookie. Now, do you look at all the stats and see and say, wow, did he blow you away and everything? No. But what you saw was a solid foundation and solid start from a young player that could have years and years of potential upside for the Colorado Rockies. I think it's not that crazy to say that if Ezequiel Tovar can develop and blossom into a high tier player, he has superstar potential. We know that he can be one of the best gloves in the game. He was, in fact, already recognized for being one of the best gloves in the game by being a Gold Glove finalist. At one point, I don't know if the season finished that way, but he was leading the NL, or at least it might have even been the whole league, but I think it was the NL at least, where he had the most outs above average. No one had a higher outs above average than Ezequiel Tovar. Granted, he didn't win the Gold Glove, but he was still recognized in his first season. And on top of that, he was surprising as an offensive player. There were still issues, but the fact that Ezequiel Tovar had 15 home runs last season and had 37 doubles, that's incredibly encouraging. That means if he has this potential, it's not that crazy to believe that he could be someone that could potentially give the Rockies 20 home runs. If he has maybe it's not going to be something we always want to count on, a 20 home run season, but if Ezequiel Tovar can average 15 home runs this season, that just adds a whole other layer and depth to the threat that he can pose, on top of the fact that he tied Todd Helton for rookie for RBI doubles by a rookie. Got that from Thomas Harding there on Twitter. And so when you just keep looking at things, the glove and stolen bases, he wasn't afraid to steal some bases, 11 stolen bases. You know, if you can double-digit stolen bases and you're a double-digit home run hitter, 73 RBI for Tovar in that season, in the first season, I mean, what is there not to love about that first step? If this is the floor, the basement, if this is the first step of Ezequiel Tovar, who knows where he can go from here? The upside, the potential upside is massive. But just like we've talked about all week long, it's about the Rockies being the right team and seeing if they're the right ones to make and help and get Ezequiel Tovar to where he needs to be. But he's already at least established himself as a major league shortstop. And it's kudos to the Rockies for now 3 in a row finding really good shortstops. That's pretty impressive. And I think that's the biggest thing to take away with everything. He is actually, with the Rockies prospects, a lot of the times, and with the Rockies rookies, they're often on the older side. They're often players that might have had a couple of stints. In the case of Ezequiel Tovar, he is a young, budding superstar. He is someone that at a young age handled a incredibly difficult season with maturity and was also able to create and generate positive results, and probably was overlooked in some ways. I think that is absolutely the case. I mean, there is a lot of talk about young rookies and good rookies throughout baseball, but the rookies for the Rockies were often ignored because they weren't on an exciting team. They were on a team that was losing. But to sit and ignore the fact that the Rockies had 3 of the most impactful rookies. I don't know, maybe I'm going homer here. 3 of the most impactful rookies in all of baseball. There were a lot of impactful rookies, but these were starters for the Rockies. I mean, these were players that were playing every day for the Rockies. They were not just rookies. For a good chunk of the season, these guys were leading the way. These guys were getting the at-bats. These guys were the guys the Rockies were turning to help them win ball games. And in the hands of these younger guys, I am encouraged. It wasn't perfect, though. Far from it. But we saw a tremendous amount of potential. We were surprised by the bat in some areas, especially the extra base hits and the power. At least I was. I was not expecting 37 doubles and 15 home runs. Slugging of 408. These are tremendous signs for the young shortstop. 6th in all of the National League in defensive WAR. 5th in the National League in doubles. 5th in the National League in putouts at shortstop. 2nd in defensive in amount of games played at shortstop. So he was able to play. He played 153 games. 2nd in assist at shortstop in the National League. 3rd in double plays turned. 2nd in the National League. 2nd in the National League in fielding percentage. 2nd youngest player in the entire National League and one of the youngest players in all of baseball. If this is just step number 1, oh boy, I'm excited for step number 2. But will we see a sophomore slump? Will we see an adjustment? That's going to be key again let's take a look at maybe as we'll see as the months go through and maybe get at least a brief look at how teams were able to look at and adjust to Ezequiel Tovar throughout the months and how Ezequiel Tovar handled making adjustments for himself throughout the months here coming up in segment number 2. But before we do that, got to tell you about some of the folks that help make this show possible. And that includes Jase Medical. Jase Medical's got you covered if you are looking for some security when it comes to your daily medication. You can get a 12-month supply of your daily medication when you visit jasemedical.com. Whether you're whether you're on extended travel, bracing for a major weather event, or limited by yet another supply shortage, you are covered thanks to our partners at Jase Medical. Life-saving antibiotics and a long list of daily medications can be ordered in a 1-year supply. A verified customer had this to say about Jase: "I'm thankful for the service. Supply chain issues caused me to cut pills in half to have it. I ordered most of my daily meds with a year's supply. I also ordered an antibiotic kit. I feel secure now. Prices are lower than local pharmacies. I highly recommend this for everyone." If you or someone you know would like to get some peace of mind by having a year's supply of any daily medicine, go to jasemedical.com to see if it's offered for you. That's jasemedical.com. And when you use the promo code LOCKEDON, you're going to get $20 off your purchase. That's $20 off your purchase at jasemedical.com when you use the promo code LOCKEDON. That's promo code LOCKEDON at jasemedical.com. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming service, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, you're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here is we talk Rockies baseball each and every day here on your favorite streaming services and the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Folks, we're talking Ezequiel Tovar today. And Ezequiel Tovar is someone that I am incredibly excited about. I really do think that when you see something like that, and when you've heard about Ezequiel Tovar, and when you look at how he tore through the minors, this is a guy that the upside is huge. This is the guy that I hope that we're rooting for 8 years from now, 9 years from now, as being the guy leading this team, being a guy with these other exciting young players that the Rockies have. And, I think that one thing we're going to have to see is how he adjusts to the second season, because now teams are going to have even more data, more information on him. He's not going to be completely someone that isn't an unknown, especially when you look at the division. And one of the encouraging things I think that you can look at is that he was able to kind of ride a nice little wave of adjusting and getting better throughout the first few months of the season, increasing his offensive numbers there throughout June, having a really, really good June there for him, having easily the best month of the season for him, where he bats 323, 333. 552. In that time, he drives in 17 and he hits 5 home runs in that time, and striking out 23 times, and but still getting on base 53 times with 31 hits in that month. So that little snapshot, it transfers into, he has another month. Unfortunately, though, second half and back half of the season, we see a little bit of cooling off, but he falls tough in July. But then in August and September, it's not flashy numbers, but he bounces back from that, and he's able to put together 2 pretty solid months. Nothing to really blow you away, but the Rockies certainly were in a tough spot there, in kind of in a rough point of the season. But Tovar was able to put together some offensive success and help the Rockies. Again, another month where he hit 5 home runs in a month, driving in 15 in August, had 26 was this hit? Yeah, 26 hits in that month as well. So we're seeing those pockets. It's just how can Tovar navigate and prevent these stretches from being so long, where he goes on month-long stretches where you see considerable dips. And I was encouraged to see the fact that even though the numbers weren't the prettiest, he was able to kind of maintain and not go into a rapid free fall from like we saw there between June and July. It was able to kind of be a little bit more of what we expected and kind of a little bit more predictable for Ezequiel Tovar. And again, if what we saw last year and in the months like in September and August, if that was the baseline, if that was step number one, the Rockies have a tremendous launching platform. I don't think it's if Ezequiel Tovar can develop, he's going to become stronger. He's going to become someone that is going to have more power already as he's going to get older. He's going to be in these programs. He's going to, build and get more, get even stronger and more athletic. This is a guy that's going to really have some potential to do some great things on offense, mixed in with the fact that 11 stolen bases for him on the year. If he can be a little bit more aggressive on the base paths, that is just an added tool to a guy that really has a lot of potential. The advanced stats for Tovar don't necessarily love Tovar after season number one, especially when you're looking at a really low walk percentage, a really high chase percentage there, and a lot of his stats being less than average. But again, rookie, young guy, and a potential to change these things, because when you're looking at the advanced metrics for fielding and running, yeah, he is in the great category, especially when it comes to the fielding category. He's more of an average base runner when it's all said and done. If these are things you can improve on, these are all areas that Ezequiel Tovar hopefully can take steps forward in and get better in, and shows the potential that he can do that. If the Rockies across the board are lowering their chase percentage, and look at, again, another moment where we're looking and seeing the Rockies below average and in a really tough spot in the league when it comes to strikeout percentages. Ezequiel Tovar not in the bottom single digits like we've seen for other Rockies, but he is in the bottom 2% of the league in taking walks after last season. So if we can see a more disciplined, an Ezequiel Tovar that's more comfortable at the dish, you're going to see those metrics rise. You're going to see him become a better hitter once he becomes more confident and comfortable at the dish and understanding strike zones and controlling his zone and being someone that's going to be able to control at bats better. That's the development we need. We're hoping for, and we're going to hope to see next year, because it's about just, let me put it, circle it back again. It's about steps forward next year. The Rockies have to take steps forward. It doesn't matter if it's small, but this team has to finish better than where it did this year in a ton of categories, especially when it comes to striking out. So if Ezequiel Tovar is able to help himself and cut down on his strikeouts, and Ezequiel Tovar is able to walk more, he's going to become a bigger threat on offense, and he's going to help this team get better. And he can lead the way. He will be a key player. I don't know why person. A key player in getting the Rockies back on track and getting the Rockies back to any sort of relevancy. It's going to come from a strong progression from Ezequiel Tovar. Momentum and excitement and energy for the Rockies will build with Ezequiel Tovar. He has that capability. Mixed with Nolan Jones, mixed with Brenton Doyle, this is the type of way you can start building momentum. But we need to see this team help its players get better. We need to see this team take steps forward, not only with these players, but as an entire team. I know those go hand in hand. So as a whole, it isn't just one player that needs to strike out less and walk more and be better at the dish. It's the entire team. And if the Rockies as a whole take a step forward as an offense, and it's led by Ezequiel Tovar, that's how you know the Rockies are on the way to being back. Ezequiel Tovar plays an incredible role in the future of this team, and I think that he is someone that we should be looking at as the potential to be a great, a superstar, an all-star. The doubles and the home runs, I mean, that I know I've said that a few times, but like, it's just like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. And that's now. So 40 doubles might not be out of the question for Ezequiel Tovar. Is it that crazy to think that he can drive in 80 runs next year and steal 15 bases and hit 15 home runs again? Get 150 hits. That's just 3 more hits than he had this year. I don't think so. And I think as a young guy that is mature and that is a student that is eager to get better, I think when it comes to becoming better at the plate and better at plate discipline, he's going to handle it. These are just my takes. These are my thoughts. These are just what I'm thinking. I am not sure. I don't want to get too excited, but he is the guy. Him and Nolan Jones are the reasons to be excited about the Rockies. And I don't think that's that crazy to say. I think that's when I think again that's a positive. That's a pro. When again, I'm hoping that Tovar gets to kind of have like a Jokic-esque moment where, you know, a couple years ago and in a little bit, it's just a random guy getting drafted during a Taco Bell commercial, and now he's one of the greatest in the world. Maybe that's too high of expectations, but it would be really great to see. This is a huge moment for Ezequiel Tovar in this early part of his Rockies legacy, because I really think that there's something. I think there's really something special about Ezequiel Tovar. I think that was. I think the Rockies are in a good spot there, and I give props where props is due. Let's wrap up our conversation about Ezequiel Tovar. Let's look at a little bit more Ezequiel Tovar stuff, and let's talk about Rockies baseball like we always do here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Sorry, I was just finished up reading something there. Didn't want to miss out on on our look at our advanced stats there in that second segment. So close that out. Let's wrap up our conversation on Ezequiel Tovar coming up in segment number 3. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming service, bringing you your daily Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Free and streaming, yes, of course, on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies podcast YouTube channel. And we've been talking Rockies baseball, and we've been talking about one of the most exciting rookies in the game, Ezequiel Tovar. And to sum it all up, it would be hope. I think that it really is like Ezequiel Tovar does bring a little bit of hope. Ezequiel Tovar brings some encouragement, brings some positive energy to this team. But it has clouded in just about every single thing to be positive about the Rockies. It's the ultimate but. Just like we asked about Freeland and Gomber and Jones and Doyle, just like we've been asking in every episode of this podcast, can this team get the best out of this player? 2024 is not a prove-it year for Ezequiel Tovar. 2024 is a prove-it year for the Colorado Rockies as an organization. This team has to prove that they can develop these players. This team has to prove that they can take the steps forward. This team has to prove that they won't squander opportunities. And there were some small things again when we go back to the deadline and the Nolan Jones trade and things. When we look at those things, we raise our eyebrows and we say, okay, that's interesting. But now it's to go from here. There are clear problems with the way the Rockies are approaching the game. when you look at the trends of the players, when you look at the trends in performance, when you look at the fact that the Rockies have now continued since the playoffs, continued to lose more and more games each year, there is something wrong there. And if the cycle again has to be really exciting, I really don't want the cycle again to be exciting young player brings the Rockies into a tiny, teeny window that has a little bit of some luck mixed in with some good play and everything going the right direction, and then slammed in back into irrelevancy. 2024 is a moment for the Rockies to show that they have a good understanding of how to best suit their players and get the best out of their players. Because we've seen time and time again of plenty of examples of the Rockies not getting the best out of players. They had a bounce back year for the Rockies isn't making the playoffs or anything. It's simply showing that the bad trends that you see throughout the Rockies as a team are reversing or stopping, because you have to maintain that over if you're really good at reversing it, you have to reverse the trends, and that takes time. But if you can at least stop the downward spiral, then the energy and excitement can build, because Ezequiel Tovar brings energy and excitement, brings interest in your team, brings high quality baseball to your team. 2.5 WAR in that rookie season. That's a pretty darn good rookie season. Gold Glove finalist. This team has to step up as an organization. It cannot fail what appears to be an exciting young group of players. And then, unfortunately, there's just no time. There's no real reason for us to feel abundantly confident that they won't screw this up. They won't. That's the thing. It's like this year and going into 2024, it doesn't even, I don't even necessarily, I don't know if it's just big moves or a big move or whatever. I need to just see the Rockies be able to take this team and produce the level of baseball that they believe that they are able to produce. I need to see it from this team. If we continue to hear from front offices and their confidence in this team and the beginning of seasons and the level of play that they believe that they are able to achieve, show me. Because I really don't, I mean, you set yourself back so much further if you can't build off of these three players, Tovar, Jones, and Doyle. If you can't figure out how to maximize and get the best out of these guys, the Rockies are in serious, serious trouble. But here's hoping that they're going to get the best. Here's hoping that we've seen the baseline and they're going to help get Ezequiel Tovar take that next step. I know he's capable of another step. I know he's capable of getting better. Can the Rockies help him get better? We'll have to see. But again, to put a bow on it, when someone says, why do you watch the Colorado Rockies right now? What's the point of watching the Rockies? You tell them Ezequiel Tovar. And that's a darn good reason to tune in. Ezequiel Tovar will be a special baseball player in Major League Baseball. And hopefully he's doing it for the Colorado Rockies for a long time to come. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for joining us here. Hopefully we'll mix it up next week and try to not do so many reviews all in a row. I know that's just kind of where we're at in the off season, but we'll break things up and try to get in some new topics and ideas. If you want to hear something and you want to let me know, you can always send us a message. You can tag us over on Twitter at LO Rockies. Let us know what's on your mind, or in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. But folks, thank you for making us your first listen of the day. You can find the Locked On Rockies podcast on your favorite streaming services and the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. For your second listen of the day, don't miss out on Locked On MLB, or if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs have you covered. Folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.